In 1995, Nintendo released as the first of the big publishers a VR headset as a video game console. This was many years before anybody else considered to do so, and that has many reasons. The most important is that the technology simply wasn't ready yet. VR games in 3D only started to actually take off in 2013 with the first Oculus Rift headset. The Virtual Boy in 1995 was mostly producing 2D games, just with a red taint over them. Don't get me wrong, this was still impressive and a unique experience back then. But it's fair to point out that neither was the general public ready, nor was the technology of the time. The Virtual Boy just couldn't be worn as a regular headset and instead requires a stand, which wasn't only a bit awkward to place and use, but was also quite prone to failure. The controller looked like a Game Boy that somehow got severely deformed, a gamepad with two different D-pads. I don't think we've ever seen something like that before or after. A true Dr. Frankenstein creation. The Virtual Boy sold less than 1 million units, which for a smaller company might have been acceptable, but for Nintendo was a huge commercial failure. Only 22 games were ever officially released, a really small library, but the quality was actually not too bad. Admittedly, there wasn't a single system seller game out there, but games like Virtual Boy Wario Land or Mario Tennis Virtual Boy looked quite good, and except for perhaps a handful of them, there weren't any real stinkers. Nintendo in the last decade has been joining the trend of re-releasing both many of their most successful games on multiple consoles, as well as many of their consoles themselves in smaller formats. I'm personally not the biggest fan of products like the NES or SNES Classic Mini. I already own a real NES or SNES, and the mini consoles don't come close to replacing the original products for me. The consoles are much smaller, which I'm not a fan of. The library of pre-installed games is very small, and the emulation upscales them too much in some cases. 240p older games often look best via a RGB SCART or a component cable, or perhaps a 720p upscale at most. Long story short, I prefer the original hardware over the new mini versions, especially since popular consoles like the NES, SNES, N64, Mega Drive or PlayStation 1 are all quite affordable to this day, due to a huge quantity of consoles out there in the wild. The Virtual Boy, on the other hand, is a failed console when it comes to most metrics, which has led to them becoming extremely expensive. Getting a Virtual Boy in 2025 would probably set you back at least €400 to €500 or dollars, and they are even quite prone to failure. In such a case, I wouldn't mind the mini or re-release console at all, because it would at least allow us to get one for an affordable price. But that's not how video game companies operate. If the console or game flopped, they see remaking and possibly improving them as an unacceptable risk. They instead just remake video games on consoles that do not require a remake because they were already masterpieces in the first place. Just another vicious circle. I would love mini or plus consoles for the Atari Jaguar, the 5200, the Sega 32X or perhaps other older consoles like the ColecoVision or the first Magnavox Odyssey, but I doubt we're ever going to get them. But that's why I was extremely excited when the Virtual Boy remake was announced by Nintendo. I couldn't wait to click on that trailer, and then the disappointment kicked in. The new Virtual Boy isn't even a real console and requires a Switch to be operated. Ouch. That's certainly not optimal, especially since Switch 1 and 2 are the only mainstream Nintendo consoles I don't own. But fair enough, I'm probably eventually going to get them. But then came a real kick in the balls. You can't even purchase the new Virtual Boy unless you're a Nintendo Online subscriber. What kind of nonsense is this? Don't you want my money? Are you that rich already, Nintendo? But wait, it gets worse. Much worse. You can't even purchase Virtual Boy games, neither physical, they should be physical, nor digital. The only way to play those games is to be an active Nintendo Online subscriber. I consider that a hate crime. This means Nintendo could simply remove all of the Virtual Boy games from their online services at any time, and you as a consumer could do nothing about it. The Virtual Boy remake device would immediately become useless plastic trash on your shelf. You couldn't even turn it on or do anything with it. And let's not kid ourselves, Nintendo has done this before. Remember Super Mario Bros. 35? A game only available for Nintendo Online subscribers, and they shut it down permanently? Remember Pac-Man 99? Yeah, the same story. I would love a real Virtual Boy remake console. Sure, it wouldn't set the world on fire, but I could see a decent enough size of Nintendo fans and video game collectors being curious and interested enough to justify the production cost. The terrible remake console, it even feels insulting to call it a console, since it's actually just a Switch displaying all the games, costs €80 or $100. But I would easily be happy to pay €150 or €200 or $1 if it was a self-operating console with either all Virtual Boy games built in, or hell, I could even sell them as re-release cartridges for $20 a piece on Amazon, like Atari has been doing with the 2600 Plus and 7800 Plus consoles. I'm sure Mario Tennis or Virtual Boy Wario Land would generate more than enough interest. This terrible virtual Remake Console, on the other hand, that treats its customers like servants, is a disgrace. I can't even recall the last time a company sold you a console without any electronics or games in it. I don't want to be impolite, but this piece of shit can go to hell.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
In any case, thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.